That's right, Katie, and we are here at the Sewerage and Water Board main plant. I can tell you that just in the 10 minutes since we have set up, we heard those loud EMDs, electromotive diesel generators, kick in. Sounds like a jet engine. You might be able to hear it in the background. But an even more urgent concern is that with the Entergy power, a major breaker tripped here at the main plant affecting sewage. So the Sewerage and Water Board put out a notice urging people to not run appliances such as dishwashers, washing machines, and even limit toilet use as much as possible because many of the pumps for sewage are out. That could compound problems in addition to everything else that we're seeing in these deteriorating conditions. Obviously wind, flooding, but we could have an additional problem in some households of backed up sewage because of that breaker being out. Many sewage pumps are down. So that is the update from the Sewerage and Water Board. As you can see in these deteriorating conditions that we keep hearing about all over the region, including here in New Orleans, and now an urgent call from the Sewerage and Water Board to limit the use of those appliances. Back to you.
I mean, you know, what they're talking about there is, of course, if you were planning to run your dishwasher and do a couple loads of laundry in preparation for losing power, it is not the time to do that. The city really does need people to conserve water at this point. So try to use as little as you can. Mike, how precarious of a situation is this, given that we haven't even seen the worst of the rain and the need for the power that they obviously are having a problem with?
Right, and I think we can, the message from the Sewerage and Water Board was very brief, but it was urgent to please anyone and everyone in Orleans limit the use of dishwashers, washing machines, and even toilets. Otherwise, you run the risk of sewage backing up. We don't know the actual number of the sewage pumps. Now, they're separate from the drainage pumps. Drainage pumps run half on the Entergy electric grid and half on the Sewerage and Water Board's owned self-generated power from turbines. We heard earlier from the Sewerage and Water Board and Ghassan Korban, the director, that 3 of the turbines are operational, which should give sufficient power. But like I said, and you can hear it in the background, those very loud, jet engine loud, portable generators known as the EMDs have kicked in just since we've been standing out here. So obviously, the whole cycle of drainage has started here in Orleans. It's always a precarious situation. We've seen when there's mass power outages that oftentimes the actual drainage pumps go down for lack of power. We hope that does not happen. But the situation that we now have is that those sewage pumps are down, and some people may see that, you know, trying to drain a toilet, dishwasher, and the like. So there is an urgent message from the Sewerage and Water Board to stop using those appliances through the duration of this storm. That is the last thing anyone needs who is trying to hunker down in their house while this storm passes. And obviously what you can see are deteriorating conditions.
And Mike,
reporting live from the, oh yes.
Mike,
please.
don't leave us yet. When I talked to Korban earlier today, he said that you know, his big concern was the power going out from Entergy. Now we've seen it in the for the sewage pumps. What happens if they do go down for the drainage pumps?
Well, fortunately, and this is part of how the system is built, the primary power for the drainage pumps comes from those turbines. Workhorse turbine number 5, and they just got back online yesterday, turbine number 4. That is the bare minimum to power the drainage pumps. All of that will be needed given the amount of rainfall that we're expecting. Now we also, like I said, have heard those EMDs kick in. Those were brought in as backup power generation to add a little redundancy because of other turbines being out under repair. Those are now frontline sources of power.
And Mike, they mentioned
the more modern turbine. Now,
Mike,
they mentioned turbine number 6.
I'm sorry.
Operates on Entergy power. and that is at risk.
And Mike, they mentioned during the mayor's news conference that, I'm sorry, Corban said to me this morning that they were going to try and move in some auxiliary generators to go ahead and power those sewage pumps.
Right. I think what happened, and we still need to get the details, we'll be reporting on this further. They haven't given a lot of detailed explanation into just what tripped, what breaker, which is located here at the plant. That's why we're here, connected to the Entergy power grid, somehow tripped, and a number of sewage pumps are now out of service. We don't know how many. We don't know the nature of that breaker being tripped, but we will ask those questions and get to the bottom of that. We still don't have an exact number of the location and number of sewage pumps being down, but that's going to affect the whole system because it all comes to one place right here at the Sewerage and Water Board main plant. So by that citywide message encouraging everyone to stop the use of those appliances, I think they are in fear of that whole system backing up. It all drains to this sewage treatment here at the main plant, and that now is an additional risk that really I don't think they had planned on. We've never really talked about sewage, all the attention being on drainage, obviously. Now we have that problem to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, it's always the unexpected that gets you in situations like this. And Mike, it's worth noting too that one of those 5 EMDs that we know were brought in after the 2017 floods, one of those is down as well.
That's right. One of those is down and under repair. They have 4 apparently that are up and running. We're hearing one of them in the background right now. It's not a position that they wanted to be in when they brought those in for redundancy, but they're front line and critical to keeping the power going to drain those critical pumps all over the city.
All right, Mike, thank you very much. And Katie, you've done so many stories on this. You know the system very well. Sometimes we're running on just a prayer, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, we are. And I think that fingers are crossed. I think fingers, legs, arms, everything is crossed at this point, that they're going to be able to handle the influx of rainfall. We can hear it here in our Rampart Street studios right now. The rain's coming down already in Orleans Parish, and that's probably why they've had to activate those EMDs, in addition to the fact that they need some more power to power the pumps that get the sewage out of people's homes. And that's why the concern is that you could have a sewage backup, because if they can't pump it out to where it needs to go to be treated, then it's got nowhere to go. So the city basically is saying, you know, when I was a kid, they used to say, if it's yellow, let it mellow.
Yeah.
If it's brown, flush it down. I think that's kind of the situation that we're in the city. And, you know, I'm joking about that, but it's certainly a dangerous situation for people, because that's obviously a health hazard.